Does Wulfrik the Wanderer have a home in Tides of Torment? Wulfrik's not-hero journey can easily take him around the world and then some. This will be focused on the character himself and not his Seafang mechanics, because going too deep into that will really require other videos to give the kind of deep recap I would be satisfied with. For now, it's a deep dive into the man himself. Wulfrik arrives on an ultra scale on foot for 275 upkeep, 4,840 health, armor 100 with a shield that blocks 55% of small arms fire. A lot of legendary lords do not have shields, so I was impressed he does. Missile resistance is the standard 15% too. Leadership 75 is nothing to be ashamed of. Speed 35 and charge speed 44, well, this is the quintessential Marauder Chieftain, so I expect we'll see a lot of similarities. Melee attack begins at 70, a very generous figure up there with Vampire Lords. Attack interval is the standard 4 seconds, splash against size of medium means Empire Knights on down, and max targets damage by splash of 5. Melee defense begins at 50, which isn't bad or anything. Weapon strength 490 is split base 320, and armor piercing 170, so he hits hard but not much through armor. Charge bonus is 50, and this is on foot, and mass is 1100. Wulfrik still counts as a siege attacker, for now, since they backed off massive siege reworks for the time being, and he uses the rage mechanic like anyone else in the faction, so the max is leadership plus 8, melee attack plus 5, and physical resistance plus 10%. In all forms, he gets 3 charges of Seafang, except late in campaign, with 150 meter range, a narrow profile, and a long damage area dropped like a wind spell. Enjoy it where it's useful, and use it to torment low-tier infantry. On a warhorse, upkeep rises to 300, health rises to 5,160, armor is 100, but the shield is downsized to 35% of frontal arc small arms missiles. Speed 90 and charge speed 110 are by no means slow. Everything else is equal until we get to charge bonus 65 and mass 1300. On a Marauder Chariot, upkeep goes to 350, health up to 5,824, armor still 100, and a shield blocking 35% of small arms fire is retained. Speed 78 and charge speed 108 are pretty typical for chariots. Melee attack now begins at 48, far from garbage level. Attack interval 4, splash of the size very large, so basically no multi-entity unit will break this splashing, and max targets damage by splash is 5. Melee defense 30 is low and is to be expected. Weapon strength 490 is crazy high for a chariot generally, and is split base 170 and armor piercing 320, so it reverses the previous tilt toward base damage. There is a bonus versus infantry of 20, where Wulfrik had no such bonus before. Charge bonus is a mighty 90, and mass is 1500. On a War Mammoth, upkeep shoots up to 550, health shoots to 14,104, armor 80 with no shield, standard 15% missile resistance, speed 56, charge speed 84, basically troll speed. Melee attack begins at 38, attack interval of 3.8 is lower than the human norm, splash target size large, so trolls will share damage, max targets damaged by 1 splash attack, 5. Melee defense 34 is a bit better than the chariot. Weapon strength 525 is split base 155 and armor piercing 370, so it is split heavily toward armor crushing. There is also the usual mammoth bonus versus infantry of 34. Charge bonus is 68 default, and mass is 6,500. Wulfrik, of course, causes fear and terror like this. As a faction leader, what's seen in-game for Born Raider, I don't think it includes what it claims about bonus recruit rank for Dark Champion Lords and so on and so forth. That's on Total War Planner, but I'll revisit this later. What he gets is the Seafang mechanic. He, personally, can attack ports from sea, and can sack and return to the sea, but his recruited Norscan generals cannot. Incidentally, he can recruit Great Shaman Sorcerer Lords with the new Tides of Torment content. Wulfrik gives upkeep minus 15% to Marauder units faction-wide, income from raiding plus 50% faction-wide. It won't seem anywhere near adequate until you get a tech adding plus 30% there, among other things, and charge bonus plus 15 for Marauder Chariots and Marauder Horsemen. Note this absolutely includes hybrid missile skirmish cavalry, a huge boost to them. What don't you see here? Anything for mammoths? Not yet. Gift of Tongues is technically what gives Wulfrik the power to raid from sea. It gives plus 15% campaign movement range to his army, gives causes fear to his army, even the basic marauders, and grants faction-wide immunity to reef, storm, and high seas attrition. Keep this in mind if confederating as Throg or Sail. Let's do a fresh look at his blue line skills. Route Marcher is the usual plus 5% movement range. The Spoilers at 3 pips raises income and spoils from pillaging and raising plus 9%, and gold from sacking plus 15%. Spoils are a corn-light system, where you need to use 500 of them to settle somewhere with standard Norscan settlement facilities, be it minor or major settlements. But there's no corn-like settlement of ruins, so besides other actions you can do with spoils, if you don't have enough, you stop expanding unless it's raising chaos altars, which can't be done on ruins, or if it's Norscan territory, because a Norscan region can be occupied without spoils. You can sack for money and turn into an altar, just with more damaged buildings, but let's push deeper talk about spoils for another time. But more is good. Serve or Die at 3 pips gives recruitment cost minus 15%, Norse Resilience is casualty replenishment plus 5% for that army for 1 pip, and since it is for 1 pip, I strongly recommend getting it almost first thing. Swelling of Doom at 3 pips adds plus 36 to growth, but you don't want Wulfrik growing provinces at home, of course. The midway point is not Lightning Strike like with other chieftains, but rather Devourer of Flesh, granting recruit rank plus 5 for Skin Wolves Werekin, and plus 1 to their hero capacity. Lightning Strike is available right past this, and is the same old. Savage Skills at 3 pips gives recruit rank plus 3 for his army. Keep this in mind, because Wulfrik becomes an insane recruiter. 1 pip in Unnatural Healing adds another plus 4% casualty replenishment, and Fueled by War gives minus 9% upkeep. The Capstone, Spawn of Chaos, gives 200 flat experience points per end turn, movement range plus 5%, and enemy hero success chance minus 10%. And that's it. In the redline skills, Wulfrik can choose between Stand or Die and Fight or Die, basically rally plus 24 melee defense or plus 24 melee attack. I'd favor attack, but you can pick only one. Instantly, you can pick Hearts of Iron for minus 15% fatigue buildup for Lord's Army. At rank 9, Aura of Chaos gives 10% missile resistance for 1 pip. At rank 7, Eye of the Gods gives weapon strength plus 10%. At rank 15, Voice of the Dark Gods gives him plus 4 leadership aura effect, plus 80% aura radius, and shaves 1/3 of the cooldown for standard die or fighter die, whichever one he has, if he has one at all. In the main combat line, Si Fang is a free pip and begins his combat line. 2 pips of Devastating Charge adds plus 30 flat charge bonus to his good numbers. Thick-Skinned adds plus 15 armor at 2, Hard to Hit is plus 12 melee defense at 2, Deadly Blade is melee attack plus 12 at 2, Foe Seeker is the old speed buff, new charge speed buff with it, and Fatigue Diminishment Tool, Wound Maker is plus 20% weapon strength at 2, Scarred Veteran is plus 15% health at 2, Indomitable is plus 12 leadership at 2, Quicksilver is plus 15% speed at 2, and Deadly Onslaught is delightfully first game for plus 25% melee damage and plus 60% charge bonus while it lasts, which he can really use. A mini line begins with Contagious Ambitions at rank 9, 1 pip for recruit rank plus 2 for his own army, and the passive Lead by Example and Aura giving leadership plus 4 and melee attack plus 5 for 35 meters around him. Quietly awesome. At rank 11, Fervent Creatures grants him melee defense plus 15 and charge bonus plus 15 flat for Skin Wolves, the units, so he boosts something that isn't trolls. And yes, I said plus 15. They're already good at attack, but this shores them up considerably on defense. At rank 16, he can pick Mammoth Tamer, and this only if the previous pips are picked, of course. This gives recruit rank plus 3 to Mammoth units, specifically, and speed plus 10% for the same. Yes, this means Wulfrik could end up recruiting rank 9 mammoths with minimal help that aren't regiments of renown. At rank 12, his personal line begins. Hunter of Champions gives a mini Taurox mechanic of refunding 10% of total campaign movement range after a victory in battle, campaign line of sight plus 50%, and the Hex of the same name, cooldown 90 seconds, range 100 meters, single target, 24 seconds of speed minus 45%, armor minus 30, and melee defense minus 40. Wow, that is huge. Juggernauts of the Sorrel gives a bonus versus large of 12 to Marauders generally. I thought this was infantry. This is everything. I saw it on chariots. And Worm Piercer ammo for javelin units specifically. I'll get stats up, but yes, it gives plus 10 bonus versus large above what they had before. The Eternal Challenger, I hope I clear up if this actually removes the speed debuff, but the others are retained, and it's given Executioner to instantly erase characters under 20% health. Physical resistance plus 10% health is a full-time bonus. Gift of Tongues gives minus 5 to enemy leadership in local region and discouraged contact effect for minus 16 leadership mid-battle when he smacks stuff. This is not a fear or terror attack, so it should work just fine on demons and undead. Echoes of Ambition gives minus 15% upkeep for his own army, generally, so doubling up on Marauders, but also making Mammoths cheaper. Construction cost minus 10% for main settlement buildings faction-wide, and construction time minus 1 turns for the same. The World Walker gives Wulfrik minus 1 turns for Seafang cooldown, plus 2 uses of Seafang mid-battle, enables replenishment in foreign territory, and gives minus 2 to global recruitment time in turns, faction-wide, and is Confederation safe. So, bottom line, mid-game and further, Wulfrik is the king of global recruitment. Available as early at rank 7 via quest battle, Sword of Torgald grants control plus 5 to all provinces, post-battle loot plus 10%, melee attack plus 10, weapon strength plus 10%, and the active ability 120-second cooldown, 44-second duration, grants magical attacks, so he gets them but it's on a timer, and plus 50% to both base and armor-piercing melee damage. Wow, simple and super strong. And yes, you can totally stack that with Deadly Onslaught. So how do we use Wulfrik the Wanderer? In a sense, he's so vanilla in terms of his personal combat, except for Seafang. You just use him as a beatstick where you can risk him, hide him where you cannot, and treat him like a solid foundation for your forces. On his Mammoth, he'll own any fight with infantry or small footlords, but needs those piles of melee attack to deal with bigger targets with more consistency. But that's okay, he hits like a truck. A really big, furry truck. The thing to understand is that unless he specs into Monsters of the North and stuff, he does nothing for Mammoths in battle. He's just extra awesome at recruiting them, and he really is very good at spreading Marauder everything through his faction. That's nice. There's a lot you can use, like Berserkers, the new Bearmen, and that's great. Wulfrik provides lots of benefits to everything but trolls, it seems. But trolls are still useful, and giants are nigh necessary for zero-weight sieges on resistant targets. In fact, let's talk about his starting army for context. Wulfrik starts with a Metalcaster Sorcerer, 2 Marauder Great Weapons, 1 Marauder Champions to anchor it all, 2 Marauder Berserkers for big-time anti-infantry DPS, 1 Feral Mammoth, and 2 Marauder Horsemen with throwing axes, making them not just your only source of speed and ranged early on, but charge bonus plus 15 flat makes them far better at rolling up archers and crossbowmen. There's a limit to what you can do with them, but you can explore those limits with enough forces. This force is effective in field battles and small settlement attacks. Sieges that are fair fights are difficult. The Mammoth can, by itself, operate as a sort of kind of ram, but the gate bug is really deadly to it if it's by itself. It will take a bunch of time even just to get through a gate normally. Wulfrik can help on the walls if he's not on a chariot, but that's not necessarily the best use of him. But Mammoths are big, and in a lot of cases you don't want units tripping over themselves because they'll greatly diminish what they can do against those gates. So the rest of your army has to either sit around or is assaulting the walls. It's easy if you have time to get siege engines, but the power a god like Mazamudi has over you early on is that the area around Hexaquadal is not actually heavy jungle, so he can move his main army and a small army at you fast, and from a lot of angles. So you've got to deal with that. Rather than force tryhard situations, you have a Born Raider, a Guerrilla Warrior, and one of your greatest strategic assets is getting Chaos Corruption running in your territory. Make people chase you. Make people take attrition. Bait them into ambushes. The works. Stop fighting fair. There's no reason to fight fair when you're early on and have a hard time recruiting much of anything but basic Marauders. And those, if you have to spam them, you spam them. though you can try to fight for Norsca itself, largely by getting Wulfrik back there early. Giving that settlement up for 10,000 gold, and you do give it up, you don't have visibility over it until later, also gets you 500 spoils to help you establish new digs. And the thing to remember about this, spoils are for each time you set up an ipso facto Norsca settlement in non-Norscan regions, not altars. So you can colonize ruins, but you can't alter ruins. So excessive exuberance until you're set up will cripple you when enemies take stuff back, to the point that money may be a lot less of an issue for you moment to moment than choking on insufficient spoils. But, given enough time, you can overcome all that. And I never saw ipso facto spoils come from sea hordes either, so yeah. And you can get a lot more than 500 from the right target, so you can do a sort of profit thing with spoils if you pillage a place and then colonize it later. But that costs money, so you just gotta deal with it. So use altars to expand where you don't have spoils set up, mainly in minor settlements, and they'll help you complete provinces. But broader stuff, spoils exist to establish a beachhead so you can bring spoils back, though apparently you can do it with altars as well. What you can build up into a permanent outpost is further down the road, especially once Wulfrik gets into the huge global recruitment buffs. Everything else is just a stepping stone before taking your show on the road on a global scale. One final note, Ogre mercenaries are a crutch, but when you have more cash than recruitment options, they can be good. Ogre pistols are good for whittling down specific enemies, but the fact Wulfrik has such robust upkeep reductions means that you would like to invest in Norscan units ASAP, and since the Dark Gods units have strict caps and you have to pay money for them too, you may need to demobilize some mercenaries to make room for them and so on. It's also 3 max Ogre units per army. With that in mind, take care and have fun delivering a mammoth beatstick to far-flung corners of the map. No need to overcomplicate it, it just gets bashier and bashier.